we're going to look into the concept of the relationship between language and logic. This chapter is wholly, completely devoted towards the clarification of logic and language. What's the relationship between logic and language? What is the relationship between logic and language? Why we want to spend considerable amount of our time and energy in the study of logic, in the study of language, because it bears some relation to our logical thinking or logical reasoning. What is the relationship between logic and language? Once a famous language philosopher, Ludwig Wittgenstein, he maintains that to construct, analyze, evaluate, argument well, one must pay attention to language. Many errors of logic comes from careless or imprecise use of language, and many misunderstanding about logic comes from what? Misunderstanding about the nature of language. Right? In order to construct well, in order to understand argument, in order to evaluate, synthesize, etc. argument, we need to pay attention to our language. Right? The concern of this particular chapter is concerned with some fundamental basics of language, to get rid of ambiguity, to get rid of vagueness, or etc. by introducing ourselves to certain techniques of definition and types of definitions and criteria to produce good lexical definition, how to get rid of certain basic grammatical errors, or etc. Right? So the content of this particular chapter is logic and meaning. The first section is concerned with extension and intentional meaning. The second section of the chapter is concerned with logic and definition, types of definition and techniques to produce those types of definitions, extensional techniques and intentional techniques. And lastly, we will be concerned with criteria for good lexical definition. Why we want to concern with only with lexical definition criteria to produce good lexical definition, because lexical definitions are what? The most commonly used types of definition in our day-to-day activities, when reading a newspaper, a book, a magazine, editorial, publication, or etc. These are the most commonly used types of definition. The last section is more specifically concerned with exposing criteria to produce good lexical definition. 8 exhaustive lists of criteria. What are those criteria and how to... So the objective of this chapter, among others, define the basic concept of logic and language, explain the relation between logic and language, differentiate between cognitive and emotive meaning, identify the different types of cognitive meaning, analyze the emotive impact of words, distinguish between intentional and extensional meaning, explain how intentional meaning relates to the concept of word, describe how extensional meaning relates to the referent of a term, explain the different types of definitions, etc. Right? Identify and avoid common pitfall in definition in writing, assess in the accuracy, clarity, conciseness of definition. Right. So the completion of this chapter, we are supposed to achieve this specific objective. Right? At the completion of this chapter, we are supposed to attain this objective. What's the relation between logic and language? What is the relationship between logic and language? Coquette, what is the relationship between logic and language? What's your name? Kadusman. Badulu, yes. Latecomers will be punished. Yes. Tanamta. Yes. Coquette, what's the relationship between logic and language? Lelise? Right? What is the relationship between logic and language? Logic are empty without language, and language are blind without logic. What does that mean? Very good. What else? Yes. What does that mean? What do you understand by this phrase? Logics are empty without language, and language are blind without logic. What do you understand by this? Logic is empty without language. Language is blind without logic. Kyobil? Lemma, yes.
We can't construct any forms of logic without using language. So language is needed for the building blocks of logic. In the case of language, we can use language to do basic stuff, but we can't form any thoughts or any forms of reason without logic.
Very good. Nice. What else? Logic is empty without language. Language is blind without logic. Lul, what do you understand by this phrase?
We can't say anything without language because language is something that we evaluate outputs and so without any language we cannot decide any types of outputs.
Very good. Very good. Lydia.
Logic, the reasoning student and non-knowledge student, language language ላይ ሲመጣ ደግሞ ሴንስ የሚሰጥ ነገር ማለት ሲያደርጉ የምናወራው ነገር በሪዝኒንግ ላይ
Very good. That's the point. That is the point. Logic and meaning are closely intertwined. Both are essential for effective communication. Without logic, meanings are blind. By using logical principle, we can ensure our thoughts and arguments are clear, consistent, and well-founded. Logic provides what? Principle, structure, forms, right? And whereas those particular principle or structure are empty without logical, without the language content, right? They require something to be fed in that particular structure, right? Without meaning, our thoughts and arguments become empty abstractions. Meaning, on the other hand, gives substance to logic. It provides the content and context for applying logical reasoning. They are highly intertwined. They are highly interrelated or intertwined. One cannot be separated from the other. Think of logic as a toolbox or precise thinking, and whereas think of language as what? As a bridge between words and worded, or as a content, right? As a content. What is the function of language? Function. It's important for communication, right? Communication in a nutshell, the function of language is to communicate. To communicate what? To communicate our daily activity, to express the spectrum, the varieties of our emotion, to live in inedible marks, to explore the maze of memory, converse with ourselves, connect with the divine. Now, we are interested what are the principal function of language? What are the principal function of language in logic? Principal function of language, right? One way or the other, this function of language are reducible to either one of the other of those principal functions. What are those principal functions which are common in logic? Right? Function of language is important to communicate our ideas, our thought, our hate, our love, our appreciation, our condemnation, etc. Right? The question is, what is the principal main function of language in logic? Principal function of language in logic are what? Cognitive function and emotive function. These are the two principal function of language in logic. But this does not mean that they are all principal function of language in logic. We have other principal function of language, but not common in logic, not used in logic, namely the phatic function, performative function, and directive functions, who are not found in logic. What is the cognitive function of language, and why it's important? And what is the emotive function of language, and why it's important? And which one is more dominant in logic? Cognitive and emotive functions are used in logic. The question is, which one is more dominant and which one is more preferable? Emotive or cognitive? Right? Lol. That does it? It's clear, right? Cognitive function is important, more dominant. This does not mean that emotive function do not have any role. This does not mean that emotive function do not have any role. in logic, we can use emotively charged terminologies in our arguments, but excessive. What's wrong with emotive function of language is excessive use of emotively charged terminology. They may paralyze our argument. They may reduce the value of the entire argument, right? Excessive use of emotively charged terminology may discredit the value of our argument, right? But we can rarely use emotively charged terminologies in our entire argument. But most dominantly, cognitive functions are used in logical argument construction or evaluation or etc., right? They are important to explore the world, share knowledge, and present history. Emotive functions are important either to express our emotions or to evoke. To evoke means what? Evoke empathy. Kirobel Antena, Kirobel Lemma, Kirobel, who is the third Kirobel? I have 3 Kirobel, right? Kirobel. Raise your hand, Kirobel. Kirobel. 1, 2, 3. Yes, the fourth one, yes. What is evoke? To express means to express one's emotion. To evoke is what? ማምጣት no ማስጀመር አይደለም evoke to evoke to stir to arouse to express is to tell one's emotion and to evoke is to arouse to stir from others, right? የራስን ስሜት መግለጽና የሌሎችን ስሜት ማስነሳት evoke. To evoke is word that can transport us into the shoe of another, fostering understanding and compassion, right? Steering others' emotions or shape the perspective or to influence the attitude of others, right? Expressing one's emotion, steering the feeling of others and shaping the perspective, which is influencing the perspective of others, right? You have to note that there are other principal functions in addition to cognitive and emotive functions. There are other principal functions of language which are not common in logic, namely directive function, performative function, and emphatic functions. They are not common in logic. Directive functions aims to influence or guide the behavior, action, and thought of others. It's about using words to get things done or to make things happen, such as focus on the listener, listen to influence, to direct, right? To common forms, commands, request, instructions, suggestions, advice, warning, prohibitions, cautions that invite actions are directive functions. And whereas emotive, the performative functions, most of them are self-explanatory. The name itself tells us something about their essence. What's the performative function of language? What do? Do they command? Do they request? Do they tend to ask information? They what? Yes? It's a language that performs itself. When you utter it, it performs. It does the action by themselves. They are not requesting others to do the action, but they are doing the action by themselves. For example, look at the expressions. I now pronounce you husband and wife. I promise to return this book by Friday. I named this ship the Titanic, etc. These are known as performative functions of language. Why? Because they perform the action by themselves. They don't request, they don't transfer the actual information, they don't transfer or evoke emotions, but they perform the action. Perform the action by themselves. The importance, significance of performative function, transformative power, performative language can create new realities, relationship, obligations, social cohesion. It reinforces social norms, legal and institutional significance, fundamental to legal system, contract, official ceremonies, etc. Right? Creative potentials or etc. Performative function, they perform the action by themselves. They don't require others to do what they're saying, right? What they're asserting. What's emphatic function of language? Can you give an example? Emphatic function is not common in logic, but this is one of the principal functions of language. Emphatic function of language. They are neither directive, nor performative, not emotive, not cognitive, but something else. What is the principal essential aspect of emphatic function of language? Lelise, and your name? Lelise, your father name, Ararsa? Yes. What is principal essential aspect, feature of emphatic function of language? Can you give an example? Social relationship, very good. What else? Emphatic function of language. Elise Ararsa. Yes, what else? What's your name? Kadus? Father name? Kifli, yes. Can you give an example for emphatic function of language? Utterance such as what? Small talks at elevator or grocery, such as hi. How are you doing? When the passerby are conversing each other, hi, how are you doing? Such kind of conversations are emphatic function of language. When your friend asking you how are you doing, his intention is not to get information. It's not intended to get information by asking that particular questions. But such kind of questions are serving as what? Lubricant for further conversations. Right? They are starters for further conversations or dialogues. Right? Emphatic function of language. They're not important to express emotion. They're not important to convey informations, but they are serves as a starter or lubricant. Right? Lubricant that keeps the wheel of communication and spinning to speed smoothly. Purpose established and maintain social bonds. Emphatic communication is not about sharing news or knowledge, but about acknowledging each other's presence and fostering a sense of communication. They focus on channel and formalistic expressions, non-informative content, non-verbal cause, right? Asking generic questions, sharing inconsequential observations. Importance plays crucial role in building and maintaining social relationship, creates positive and comfortable atmospheres, right? So they are neither cognitive, nor emotive, nor directive, nor performative, but kind of starting for further conversation, right? These are principal function of language which are not common in logic. The principal function of language common in logic are only cognitive and emotive functions of language. Terminology that convey information is said to have cognitive meaning. Read it louder. What's your name? Your name? Kadus. Read the example. The population of China?
The population of China at over 1.44 billion is the largest in the world, followed by India with approximately 1.38 billion. While China's birth rate has been declining in recent years, India's remains relatively high, leading to a projection that India may surpass China in the total population by the mid-century.
Thank you. What is the essential feature of terminologies used in this particular passage? Is it emotively charged or cognitive function?
Cognitive.
It's a cognitive. Why? Because
It's trying to express about numbers.
Express about facts, data, numbers, right? So the cognitive functions are characterized by transferring the actual information without taking side, without trying to steer the emotion of others, or without trying to express one's emotions, right? Cognitive functions are important to convey, transfer the actual information. They provide knowledge and understanding. They are neutral and objective. They compare and contrast, and they're mainly concerned with specific number in factual data, right? They quantify information, establish relationship, and explain trend. Whereas, look at the second example, using animals for scientific experiment. Coquette, read the example. Using animals?
Using animals for scientific experiment is a barbaric practice that inflicts suffering on creatures
Can you detect, can you identify emotively charged terms in this passage? Which words are highly based, emotively charged? Yes, okay.
Unimaginably suffering,
Very good. What else?
subjecting them to relentlessly pain and torment in the name of human progress.
Yes, it is emotive expressions. More specifically, which words are highly value laden? Pain? Yes. Which words? Yes. The words such as barbaric, suffering, torment, relentless pain. They are highly value laden, emotionally charged, overloaded terminologies, right? Highly, excessively charged terminologies. So what's our task? Our task is to separate or to disengage, to distinguish those emotively charged terminology and to substitute them with what? With facts. With reason, right? Our purpose is to disengage, to separate them, and to substitute and replace them with reason. And you have to note that there is an expression that associated with emotively charged terminology, which is known as value claim. Value claim is something which is something good or bad, right or wrong, acceptable or unacceptable, right? So the first thing that you need to do is to disengage the value claim from the value laden terminology and to replace the value claim with reason and fact. Now look at the re-expressed form of this argument. The re-expressed form of this argument. The first premise is animal used in scientific experiment endure immense suffering and cruelty. Then the statement that comes after it just simply supporting with evidence and reason. Premise 2, the suffering endured by animal in scientific experiment is unnecessary. The same thing is true for the second premise, right? Supporting, augmenting with evidence and reason. Premise 3, the pursuit of human progress should not come at the expense of animal welfare, right? Therefore, the use of animal in scientific experiment should be abolished to prevent inherent cruelty and suffering inflicted upon innocent creatures, right? Emotively charged terminology, they tend to paralyze, they tend to discredit the value of our argument, right? So our task should be to disengage, to separate the value laden terminology and to replace or augment, support them with reason and evidence, You have to note that the use of emotively charged terminology in themselves are not intrinsically wrong. They are not intrinsically wrong. What's wrong is excessive use of them. They tend to paralyze, they tend to reduce the value of the entire argument. Right? Two things must be noted with regard to emotive terminology. The first thing is to separate facts from feeling. Logic strives on fact, while emotion flows with tide in a statement filled with emotive meaning, particularly those connected with values like bad, better. It's essential to separate the factual core from the swirling emotional undercurrent. Ask yourself, what are the underlying facts being presented? The second thing is supporting values in reason. Value claims such as claim something is good or bad, right or wrong, are not bad by themselves. We need to disengage, separate them, and support them with reason. Support or augment them with reason. What's a value claim? What's a value claim? What is the value claim in this example? Using animals for scientific experiments is barbaric practice that inflicts unimaginable suffering on innocent creature, subjecting them to relentless pain and torment in the name of human progress. What is a value claim? The value claim, in a nutshell, is what? A claim or a statement or an assertion that asserts something is good or bad, something is right or wrong. So what is that something which is intended to be asserted as good or bad in this passage? Yes.
Using animals for scientific experiments
Is
unethical.
is unethical or bad. Yes, that is the value claim. That is the value claim. Using animal for scientific experiment is bad. That is the value claims, right? All the rest, statements and words are just simply emotively charged terminologies and expressions, right? So the first thing is to separate the value claim. What is the value claim? What is that thing which is intended to be asserted as good or bad? Using animals for scientific experiment is unethical or bad is the value claim, right? So the second task is what? To substantiate, to support the value claim with evidence and reason, right? That's what this note is telling us. The first thing is to separate the feeling from fact. Second thing, separating the value claim from feeling, and finally supporting the value claim with reason and evidence to make the argument most concrete and tangible, right? But it does not mean that cognitive function of language do not have any impediment. Cognitive function, they do have their own pitfalls, drawbacks. Cognitive function of language, they can be hampered by the existence of vague and ambiguous expressions. Call it expressions because ambiguous or word, it can be a word or it can be a group of words, right? When do we call a word vague and when do we call a word an expression ambiguous? And give an example. Cognitive functions, they can be hampered, impeded by the existence of vague and ambiguous expression. Can you give an example? Kadus Johannes, what does ambiguous expression mean? Yes, the same thing is true for vague. Give an example. Like what? Light, L-I-G-H-T. It's ambiguous or vague? Why? It has multiple meaning. Specifically, the same thing is true for vague, right? It has multiple meaning. But what makes it different from ambiguous? Both vague and ambiguous has multiple meaning. But what's exactly is ambiguous word? Yes, your name? Yes, no, I don't. Your name? Elisa. What's the similarity and difference between vague and ambiguous? Yes, Elisa, good. Your name? Lol. Lol? Yes. What is ambiguous? If it has multiple meaning. Kadus, father name. Unclear. Good. Yes, good. That's not satisfactory. Yes.
When both vague and ambiguous are unclear, but when it's ambiguous, it can be one of two things. But when it's vague, it's more of we know what it is, but we don't know where it ends. So like saying something is too heavy or too light depends on each person. But when it's ambiguous, like he said, we can use the word light, it can be two things.
Thank you very much. Right? That's the point. That is the point. Ambiguity, it has two or three meaning, which is clearly known, clearly identified, distinct meaning, clearly known meaning, which are already found in a dictionary. Whereas vagueness, you have already identified the point, but the essential feature of vagueness is what? There is borderline cases or specific instances to which we cannot tell whether it applies to it or not. There are instances or examples to which we cannot tell exactly whether it applies to it or not. Right? It has numerous definitions, but the exact number of definitions is not exactly known for vague expressions, for vague words or for vague phrases. Can you tell which word is vague and which one is ambiguous and why? Your name? Kedus, father name? Badilu. Rich, vague or ambiguous?
Vague.
Vague. Happy? Next, happy. Happy, ambiguous, wrong. Gazaኝ, right? Your name, father name, Kedus Mazgabi, yes, Kedus Mazgabi. Happy, is it vague or ambiguous? Vague. Very good. Vague. Justification? Why? Yes, correct. It's vague. Why? Next, vague. Happy. Vague or ambiguous? It's vague. Why? Yes, because there is borderline cases. There are borderline cases, or there are specific instances to which we cannot tell whether the word happy applies to it or not. What does happy mean? Is it a material possession? Spiritual possession? What? How much a person should possess to be considered as happy? There are an infinite, limitless number of definitions attached to the word happy. An infinite or limitless definitions can be attached to the word happy, right? The same thing is true for the word rich. Bank, your name. Kirbil. Is it vague or ambiguous? Bank. Bank is vague. No. Next, the word bank. Ambiguous. What? Because bank, the word bank has many meanings. Yes. What else? Yes. You like to comment? Yes. Bank. Bank is ambiguous. Why? Because? Same for all. Yes, good. Bank is ambiguous. Why? Because it has clearly known meanings. Clearly known meaning. Because it has limited meaning. Bank can either what?
Either it can be an institution.
A financial institution or the end of a river. The end of a river, yes. Right. It has clearly known meaning. The same thing is true for light. Your name, next, Kirbil, Kedus, right? Yeah, Lol, yeah. Light. Ambiguous. Normal. Next. The word normal is what? Vague. Next, excess. Vague. Very good. Right. Go ahead. Ambiguous. Very good. Sure. Lydia. Sure is, it's a kind of accepting degree, right? Accepting degree. What is the degree of certainty? Sure is what? Vague. It's a vague concept, right? Sure is vague concept. Mod? Mod is, mod. No, it's not mood, it's mod, right? Mod is ambiguous. Mod is ambiguous. Bald? Bald is not ambiguous. It is what? Bald. Bald is vague. It's bald. Bald is vague. Lacks precise definitions, right? An ambiguous word or expression can be found in a particular passage. You will be asked to identify and to tell the two meaning involved in that concept. Lul Tadese, read louder the first passage. People nowadays says they can't.
People nowadays say they can't believe in religion. They say that cannot believe in miracles. Is it that they cannot believe or that they invent to believe? They believe in miracles or modern science. They know. They believe in vaccines, spacewalks, and transplants. They believe in fiber optics, laser surgery, and genetic engineering. They can believe in miracles, all right. They just don't want to believe in religious
Miracle. Good. Can you tell which word is used ambiguously in this passage? Yes. Which? Kedus? The word miracle. The word miracle is one thing. In the second sentence, they say they can't believe in miracle. What's miracle in this context? People nowadays, they can't believe in religion. They say they can't believe in miracles. Miracle refers to what? Religious revelations, right? The word miracle means in the second sentence they say they can't believe in miracle. Is the word miracle used to refer to in the sense of religious revelations, right? Whereas miracle in the second context, they believe in the miracle of modern science. What's miracle means here? Miracle in this context refers to what?
A profound thing.
Profound or extraordinary achievement of science. The word miracle in the second sentence refers to religious revelation, and while in the second context they believe in the miracle of modern science, miracle in this context refers to the extraordinary, profound achievement of modern science. A single word is used into two entirely different contexts in a single passage, right? The same thing is true for the second example. Your name? Konda, yes. Read, we are in the dark.
We are in the dark because the light was burned off. But if we are in the dark, then we are ignorant. Therefore,
We are ignorant. Very good. Which word is used ambiguously?
Light.
The word? Light. No? Dark. Can you tell which the two meaning involved? Dark. What does dark mean in the first sentence? We are in the dark because the light bulb burned out. Dark refers to absence of
Light.
absence of light. And second context, but if we are in the dark, then we are ignorant. Dark in the second sentence, it's a metaphorical expression of the absence of knowledge. Yes, absence of knowledge, right? We are in the dark, absence of light. In the second context, it's metaphorical expression of the absence of knowledge, right? The word dark. If a tree falls in the forest, Krobel Antanach.
Does it make a sound? Modern science says yes, or there are vibration in the air, even if no human are nearby, but this is easy. And sound is something here that usually obeys and continue nothing. So if
When there was no sound, yes. Which word is ambiguously used? Which word is ambiguously used? The word sound. What sound in the first context? If it falls in the first, no one is there to hear it fall. Does it make a sound? Moral science, yes. For there are vibration in the air, even if no humans are nearby. But this is easily refuted. Sound is something heard. Yes. What is sound in the first sentence refers to? It is physical vibration, right? In the absence of the perceiver. In the absence of the perceiver. Whereas sound, in the second sentence, it refers to what? Sensation. As a sensation, as a perceived object, right? As a physical object and as a perceived object. Sacred text says you need face. Your name? Elisa, read the first sacred text.
Sacred text says you need faith. What's wrong if you disagree with this text? Unfortunately, this will just another thinking mistake. The fact that you are the word because you are faith is coming to start. And the fact you pull out the driver because you are faced the car.
Apart. Wait. Everybody needs face. Very good. Which word? Correct. The word face is used ambiguously. What's face mean in the first sentence? Sacred text says you need face. What does the word face implies? Face, belief in religious miracles or religious messages or etc. In religious faith, in the context of religion. But a lot of people disagree with those texts. Unfortunately, these people just are not thinking straight. The fact that you go out to your car in the morning shows you have faith. It's going to start. What's faith in this context? You have faith that it's going to start. The fact that you go out to your car in the morning shows you have faith. It's going to start. Faith. This context refers to what? What is most probable? A belief in what's most probable, likely to happen. What's likely to happen, right? The word faith is used in the context of believing in what's most probable, whereas faith in the first context refers to a religious context, and believing in the religious statements or etc. Right? I have a duty to do what's right, and I have a right to run office. Hence, I have a duty to run for office. Which word? Emmanuel. The word right. And what is the two meaning involved? What's right means? I have a duty to do what's right. What right refers to what? I have a duty to do what's right. Right refers to, and it is ethical implication, right? Ethical, to do the opposite of wrong, right? The opposite of wrong. I have a duty to do what's right. And whereas I have a right to run for office. What's right in this context? Chance. Chance? I have a right to run for office. In its what? Legal sense. In its legal sense. Or a kind of entitlement, right? Entitlement. I have a right to run for office. Right in the first, in its ethical or its ordinary sense, and right in the second context, in its legal sense, right? Hence, I have a duty to run for office. The same thing is true for duty, right? The word duty is used ambiguously. Duty means our day-to-day duty obligations, and whereas duty in its legal connotations or implications, the second context, right? Cognitive function of language can be impeded by the existence of vague and ambiguous expressions. So the first thing that you need to do is to disengage with whether words are used consistently throughout the argument before proceeding to the further argument, right? Something is true, the existence of verbal and factual disputes. Verbal and factual disputes can impede our argument. What's verbal dispute? Can you give an example? Verbal dispute. Verbal disputes, also known as linguistic disputes. They are disagreements that arise from misunderstanding or clashes in the interpretation of language. This can happen due to a variety of factors, including ambiguity, vagueness, and presuppositions. Presupposition, when people make implicit assumption about what other person knows or believes, leading to misunderstanding. Example, imagine a manager saying to an employee, I'm surprised you finish a report so quickly. You must have been, and it must have been an easy one. Such kind of statement or assertion may lead to what? A dispute, may lead to conflict between the manager, the employee, and the employer. Such kind of dispute is known as verbal dispute that arise as a result of the existence of vague and ambiguous or presuppositions or assumptions, previously held assumptions, or cultural difference itself may lead to a dispute, which is a verbal dispute. Different cultures have different way of using language, which can lead to misunderstanding when people from different cultures communicate. For example, direct eye contact. It may lead to dispute, right? የሆነ ሰው አፍጦ ካያችሁ ወደም ነው ኢንተርፕሬት የምታደርጉት. That's a kind of disrespect, isn't it? In most of Ethiopian cultures. In European culture, direct eye contact is considered as what? Respect for colleagues, right? The cultural difference may lead to a kind of disputes that may it may discredit the value of the entire argument. So appreciating or understanding cultural difference is one way to avoid the potential disputes. Listening actively or clarifying your own meaning or asking clarifying question or etc. may be the tool to get rid of verbal disputes. Cultural difference, presuppositions, vague and ambiguous expressions. Whereas factual disputes are conflicts or disputes that may not because of the existence of vague and ambiguous expressions, but because of the difference, because of disagreement on facts, as the name implies. They arise as a result of the existence of the disagreement or discrepancy between facts. Key characteristics of factual disputes: they focus on evidence. They are resolvable through verification or observations. They can often be resolved by gathering evidence, conducting research, and consulting experts to determine the truth or accuracy of the disputed information, common in various fields such as history, law, politics, everyday life, science. Examples in historical events, scientific event, legal event, everyday disagreements. We can resolve factual disputes through gathering credible evidence, consulting experts, conducting research, evaluating resource of information for reliability and bias, right? So factual disputes, as the name implies, they arise as the result of the difference in fact, and whereas verbal disputes are not because of fact, but because of disagreement in vague and ambiguous expressions and because of the existence of presuppositions, assumptions, and cultural differences. Terms are the basic constituent element of any argument. Basic constituent element of any argument. And what does term include and what does it exclude? Arguments consist of premise and conclusion. Premise and conclusion are nothing, but they are composed of what? Terms. Premise and conclusion are nothing, but they are consists of terms. What's a term and what it includes and what does it exclude? What's included in term? Define term. Term includes nouns and descriptive phrases. That's it. Term does not include verb, adjective, and adverbs. Terms does not include verbs, adjective, and adverbs or prepositions, right? It includes only what? Nouns and descriptive phrases. What are the terms? Are the basic unit of argument, essentially words or group of words that present something specific. Think of terms as what you are talking about. They are names or descriptive phrases. What do they look like? Terms can single nouns like dog, or descriptive phrases like intelligent creature with 4 legs. Every term has got two meanings, namely intentional meaning and extensional meaning. The intentional meaning is the essence of the term, of the qualities or the attributes or the features which is common by the terms that you are referring to, and whereas denotative or extensional meaning refers to what? The external meaning of the word, right? The connotative intentional meaning is the internal meaning of the word, and whereas the extensional or denotative is the external, tangible, the concrete living member of the reality that testify the word that you are referring to. For example, let's say you argue that all five factors are heroes. The term five factors has both extensional and intentional meaning. The extensional meaning is what? Extensional meaning for firefighter is what? Concrete, living, member of the reality, represented by the word firefighter. And what is the intentional connotative meaning for firefighter? Selfless, brave, risk-taking, or etc. Right? The connotative meaning is the internal qualities, attributes, feature represented by the term. Right? Which do you think is open for change? Which one is evolving? Intentional or extensional meaning? Through the passage of time. Intentional, right? Extensional or intentional? Which one evolve? Through the passage of time. Intentional meaning refers to the qualities or attributes, and whereas the extensional meaning refers to the external features, the tangible member of reality represented by the word, that word. Which one is open for evolution or change? And which one is static? Intentional can change, whereas extensional is somehow static. Do you agree with that? Yes.
Same as intentional can change, but extensionals are always definite.
Justification.
Because extensional definitions are based on the real application of the definition of the word. So they're the outright definition, but intentional, it can change based on what people feel about the topics or the terms. So as time goes on, new developments or new events might happen that might change the feeling of the general public towards the word.
Very good. Good. In fact, both intentional and extensional change over time. Both extensional meaning and intentional meaning change over time. But extensional meaning is somehow more dynamic, and it changes more frequently than intentional meaning. Intentional is somehow static as compared to extensional meaning. But their static nature is not somehow absolute. Their static nature is not somehow absolute. Terms can change through time. The real world things a term refers to its extension, and its intention as well can shift as time marches on. Example, planet was include what? Pluto, but now it doesn't, right? The concept of planet remains intentional, but what includes the extension has evolved, right? The word gentleman once remains connotes nobility in social class, but it now carries a broader meaning of politeness and good manner. Empathy extensions, right? So both intentional and extensional meaning can change over time. Which do you think? Can we have terms without extensional meaning? Can we have a term without extensional or denotative meaning? Can we have a term without intentional or connotative meaning? Can we have a term without extensional? Which one is possible? A term without intention or a term without extension? Kadus, and justification, why? A term without extension is possible, whereas a term without intention is impossible, does not exist. Justification.
Because that, as you can see in the example, the term unicorn, it's an imaginary term, so it can be changed through time, so it's not static. So without this word or without extension, you can have a statement.
Yes. A term without extension is possible, whereas a term without intention is impossible. Every term has got intentional or connotative meaning. Every term. There is no term without connotative meaning. And whereas some terms have got empty extensions, such as the word unicorn or a blue horse, etc. Right? Some terms are empty extension. They do not have any real concrete living member of the reality that testifies their existence, right? Every term has extensions, and whereas some terms are empty extensions. Intension sets the rule. What does that mean? Intentions controls the extension. The essence of a term determines what it includes in the real world. It's like a blueprint for a house. The plan comes first, then the actual building. Example, the concept of a mammal. Intention determines which animals qualify extension based on specific traits like fur, warm-bloodedness, and live births, or etc. Right? Terms ladder. Some terms can be arranged in order of increasing intension and in order of increasing extension, or in order of decreasing intention and in order of decreasing extensions. What is the order of increasing intention means? Each term adds more specific details, like telescope zooming in. When you come closer and closer, the last list of the terms contains more features or more qualities as compared to the word that comes before it. A term is in order of increasing intention, whereas increasing extension is just the direct reverse of increasing intentions. Direct reverse of increasing intention is decreasing extensions, right? Each term covers a smaller group, like a net narrowing its focus, right? Decreasing extension means the last term have more member as compared to the words or the terms that comes before it. Decreasing extension, right? So they have inverse relations. When extensional meaning increase, intentional meaning decrease. They have inversely related.